tremendous looking trophy.
Hello and welcome to Platinum Exposure, #1 PlayStation podcast in the Oceanias. My name's Dylan Blight. Joining me, as always, Ashley Hobley.
Hey John, excited to be here. Another busy week of PlayStation stuff. You believe we got 2 state of plays this week?
2
and
state
nobody
of play.
cared.
One for a game that most people are like, nah. And then another game that everyone was like, oh yeah, I forgot. And that second state of play, they were like, well, even PlayStation was like, oh yeah, that's happening tomorrow, by the way, everyone.
Yeah.
Probably should have told you earlier, but yeah. Anyway.
Why not? Why not put 2 state of plays back to back?
Do it. So yeah, trophy cabinet, gold trophy, state of plays. We got some. Platinum, Sifu. So of course, Sifu is out. I think it's out officially. Well, but it is by the time you listen to this. It had that 48-hour early access pre-order thing.
Yesterday.
Was it officially yesterday? No, that was the 48-hour thing.
It was day of release, yeah.
Yeah, I think today's day of release. Sunday.
The 8th. The 8th of February is the official release date.
Okay, we're good. I don't know why. I kind of hate pre-order early access things. It's just a dumb. I think it's just a dumb incentive.
Well, it certainly didn't help when apparently PlayStation have a lot of issues of people being unable to download the game for the early access.
Yeah, it clocked over and then it was just stuck at 000 on everyone's PlayStations and they couldn't play it, and then everyone's tweeting at Slow Clap being like, why can't we play it? And they're like, this isn't our fault, it's PlayStation's. And all these people are like, we paid for early access, and then I was like, this is why you should probably
$17 back.
Yeah, I was like, this is probably why you don't pre-order for early access. Just pre-order to pre-order or get the soundtrack or art book or whatever. Anyway, Sifu. So if you listen to last week's Arcade Couch, I talked about it then. Oh no, this week. Sorry, on Monday, which was recorded last week. At the time, I hadn't beat the game, and I was like, wasn't sure if I was gonna beat the game. By the time review embargo, which was Sunday night at fucking 11 p.m. What a weird. That's probably the weirdest embargo I think I've ever had in the time we've done Explosion Network. I think Sunday, 11 o'clock. Weird. But then I beat it.
That's because of the 2-day early access, though.
Yeah, I know. But it was just weird.
If it wasn't for that, then it would have been a normal-ish time.
A silly embargo. So yeah, the embargo happened. My review's up, 9 out of 10. Beat the game. Not only did I go from, I'm not sure if I'm able to beat this, to I beat it, and then I went through the entire game again and got the true ending. So I went from sort of one extreme
I appreciate the genuine surprise people have had that they beat the game more than anything else. It's like, wow, I beat the game.
It's like a surprise plus a relief. And now, so I was watching Buddy from Radio. I watched him streaming last night, right? I was watching that for a little bit, and I was like, fuck, I want to play some Sifu now. So then I jumped back in, and I was like, maybe I'll start my attempt to get the platinum, which I don't think I personally don't believe I could do, but I would love to. So I went back and I played through the first level, and I got a good first level rundown where I beat it with no deaths. So then I'm going into the second level, and I got some the right abilities I wanted out of the first level. So then I can go into the second level, no deaths, and try and do that. I can beat the second level with 1 death. Ain't good enough. So currently, if you're not keeping up, Sifu has 5 levels. 5 levels, 5 bosses. Of course, the whole dying mechanic is sort of confusing, but more or less it works in a way that if you die once, you'll age 1 year. You die another time, you're now going to age 2 years. You die again, you're now aging 3 years. So you start the game at the age of 20, and very quickly, if you start dying in a row without finding a way to clear your death counter, you'll be dying and going +7, +8. And next second you're 72 and you've got the game over screen. So I feel like to get the main platinum hang up would be the gold trophy for beating the game under the age of 25, or maybe it's 25 and under. Either way, something like that. Which means you've got 3 or 4 deaths. Either way. So let's say you got 3. Let's say the worst case now. So you got 3 deaths. So that means ideally you'd want to beat the first 4 levels, no deaths, and have all 3 as chances in the final fight. I feel like if you want to like attempt to do this, so you know, I feel like it's so funny because the first time I beat the first level, it's like much like watching Buddy, you know, play it last night. It's like, fuck, I beat the first level, yay! I'm like 60 years old or whatever, you know, like. And then first time I beat the second level, it's like, yay! I'm like 54 or whatever by the time I went back and replayed. And now I'm at the stage where I'm like, yeah, I beat it, but I'm age 21. That's not good enough. Like, it's like, better go back, try it again. So, yeah, Sifu is like watching the reaction, I guess, and everything like that's been sort of interesting. It's a very hard game. And I'm glad I wasn't full of shit. That was because I kept saying to like, you know, telling you as I'm playing it, like even last week's recording because I played it at that point. I was like, I don't know if I can beat this game. I'm like, it's fucking hard. Like, and it was that whole thing of like, am I actually bad at the game or is it actually hard? But then the game comes out and you've got plenty of people being like, it's hard and that's why I love it, or it's too hard, I can't beat it. You know, there are some reviews that are like giving it really low scores, and the main thing of that is it's too hard that it makes it bad, so 5 out of 10 sort of thing. Then you've got the other side of the conversation, which is fine, which, you know, again, I do point out in my review, I made my tweet the other day, I was like, you can like really like this game and think the difficulty is fine, but that doesn't mean you suddenly can't still be like, but all those conversations about making games more accessible with possible like easy modes and stuff, that's fine. It just means that if you don't want to play the easy mode, you would just play it on the developer recommended, this is the way we designed Sifu, and then there's like another mode that's just for people who, you know what I mean? Like, it's fine. Just because you like the game doesn't mean you suddenly have to like flip a lid. We go through this every time a Souls game releases, though, I feel so.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's an interesting discussion every time, I feel like. It feels like, I feel like it goes and comes in waves. It's like, it's always that discussion of like respecting the artist's vision and then everybody wanting everybody to play. And it's kind of like, can you ever really balance that out fully? It's like, which one gets priority? I mean, it comes to, in my opinion, I think I'm leaning towards more like, if the video game developers want to make it that way, you don't have to buy the game. You don't have to play the game.
My example is always Celeste, though. Like,
I mean, if you want to make it as mainstream and as accessible and get more sales, you would make it as accessible as possible. You know what I mean? But if you don't want to do that, then sure, whatever. It's like if you go to a restaurant and they're like, we're only going to sell spicy food.
Yeah.
That's all we make, spicy food. It's like you're going to alienate a certain amount of people who can't handle.
Well, I mean, if you want to take
food.
it to the food analogy, it's like if I go somewhere and I'm like, hey, can I get a burger without cheese because I'm lactose intolerant? And I go, nah, we can't be fucked. It's like...
yeah. So you just go to another restaurant.
Yeah. It's hard to compare, but I do feel like, and the example I always give is Celeste, because I just feel like Celeste is a game that's designed and it's very hard. However, it gives you a menu that lets you literally make it a little bit easier, bit more easier, fucking float through the levels. You're not even playing it easier. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely. But I don't know, but the hardness of Sifu seems to be the core of the game. Whereas Celeste had like a story element and other things it was about rather than just the gameplay.
Yeah. But I mean,
if you strip away the difficulty of Sifu, it probably isn't getting the sort of talk that it is.
It wouldn't. I mean, the difficulty is the main reason it talks about it and everything like that. So, and I mean, it's a game that I think you can beat under an hour is the other thing. So obviously all the if the game was easier, what's here, everyone would, and you could rush through it without dying and having to learn the game, then everyone would complain it's too short because you could beat it under an hour. Like, I haven't looked yet, but I guarantee, if not already, someone has beat this in under an hour. Because I think when I did my second run, and I like had to retry a couple times, I think it took me a few hours to the point that I was like, if I was a bit better and I could do all these bosses first try, I reckon you could do this in an hour, under an hour. So I think that's like how short the game is ultimately. Yeah, I mean, what's your, like, seeing all the reviews, seeing the, you know, there's some people giving it the 9s and stuff like we did. There's other people giving it the really low scores. All the discussion that was happening on Twitter yesterday or Sunday, whenever Monday's reviews dropped, and, you know, people jumping in being like, man, I was really excited for this game, but fuck this shit. How are you feeling there? Because you were like, oh.
I was keen, and watching Buddy as well last night. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll pick it up, but it's not like an urgent thing. I feel like I'm not really in the mood right now to get my ass kicked by a video game, especially with obviously Horizon like just over a week away, and we've got a whole bunch of other stuff we need to work on and get. The time is the big, you know.
Yeah, I'll tell you something. Here's
challenge.
My little interjection here before we continue. I actually think that if I wasn't reviewing this and I had to pay for this day one it's out, I may have jumped off. I reckon I would have jumped off without fear.
You would have jumped off, put out a video saying, "Oh, this doesn't respect my time," and
maybe not to that degree, but I actually reckon if I had picked it up, like say if I picked it up today, price or whatever, something like that, and just with the other stuff I've got to do, be that like other stuff I'd like to play. There's a bunch of like stuff I've got to write for review, like games, movies, and obviously, you know, like I've got stuff to the degree I reckon that after like dying several times, because I don't have to review it, I reckon I would have gone, I'm enjoying this, but CBF, honestly. Which is like sort of like sad because it's currently obviously not much is released this year, but obviously it's my current like game of the year runner, like front runner coming into that. And we're in February, which means it's like sort of slipped in at that Returnal-ish time, which is interesting because that's when did Returnal release? March, I think.
Yeah, about this time.
It was like the very early year. And interestingly, next month we get Elden Ring too, so I have to see. Imagine a world where it's like, Elden Ring is nothing compared to CV. Easy.
Nah, that's not going to happen.
Was there any reviews or anything that like you spotted where you're like, that was interesting? What did you think?
No, I think
based on what I was saying to you like ahead of time, what was sort of...
No, I think everything seems to be reasonably spot on. Like obviously everybody's talking about the difficulty, and then I've seen some dissenting views like the combat's not as great as they want it to be, and so, like that sort of thing. I think some of the discussion around the cultural input and like the aesthetic is interesting. Because obviously it's made by a team of mostly white dudes.
Yeah, white dudes from Europe somewhere? I can't remember where.
Yeah. And like, obviously there's been a big uproar around that content creators box that was sent around.
Yeah, I missed this,
sort of stuff.
Actually. So what was the problem?
I don't know. It's just, you know, there was like incense and like a teapot and like a bunch of like Asian stuff in a box sent out. Cool looking box though.
So it was just like, I reckon that was put together by a PR team though. Like,
yeah,
that's less. If like I've seen the criticism around like slow clap, like making the game and everything, and I think that's all fine to discuss. And I've read a couple of pieces on that I can like totally get behind. But I would say not go after slow clap for a PR kit because that would be handled by not them. So
probably,
yeah. But I think most of the discussion I've seen around the, you know, fully white team doing a like heavy Chinese like game that's like heavily rooted in, I guess, what do you even call it? Chinese legacy. I don't want like
spirituality
and stuff. Yeah, whatever you want to call it. I think all that discussion's been fine. I don't feel like it's heavily weighted as like fuck these guys. It's just like, you know, as an Asian person, this felt a bit weird or whatever, which is I think fine.
Yeah,
like that's what most articles have been. So, yeah, they do have I think 3 or 4 people in the credits listed as.
Seems like I don't. It's hard to say based pure on names. It's like I'm pretty sure the composer's Asian based on that surname. The composer is Asian.
Yes, I believe the composer is from China. So, okay. And that was like only released. Like when I got a review code, that news was embargoed until like mid last week or something like that. So I was like, why weren't you sort of talking about this earlier? But anyway, and then I think they have like 3 or 4 people listed in the credits as sort of whatever
cultural experts or whatever.
Yeah, like something like that. Yeah. I mean, from everything I've read, at least from the couple, and I think I've read maybe 2-3 articles, I don't feel like there's anyone's pointed out anything that's like super offensive or like, you know, like over the top stereotypical. I think, you know what I mean? Like super.
I did see someone write. There's a scene in which apparently there's like graffiti on the wall, and they write something out, a message out in, I don't know, Mandarin or Cantonese symbol, like, and then they also write it in English next to it, in case the people in Chinese couldn't read it.
It's true. I think they do. Yes, I think I know what they're talking about. Yeah.
So,
and they also don't have. It's got English and something else. It's got like 3 localizations at launch, but it doesn't actually even have
Chinese.
Yeah, any sort of. I don't think it has any. Maybe one. Maybe it has like one Asian language, but I don't know if it has. Yeah, which is, you know, obviously sort of a weird thing to launch a game with when it's set in that side of the world, sort of thing. So weird, but yeah, obviously I really liked it. I think it's very good. I will maybe keep randomly trying to, like, I could see myself because it isn't long. I can spend like 15-20 minutes if I want to, just jump in, give a boss a couple goes, see if I can like beat them without dying, sort of thing, and be like, nah, fuck it, go do something else now. You know what I mean? Like, I'm now at the stage where getting to the boss is not really the issue. It's just like beating the boss. So I can like jump in and feel calmly attempt that. So maybe I'll keep attempting that. Maybe I'll give up. More likely I'll give up, to be honest. But at this stage, with everyone still talking about it and like, you know, riding on a high of like, this is really enjoyable and stuff like that. And getting so close, and like, it's a game that I would like to be like, oh, I platinumed it, but fucked if I know if I can. So we'll save the state of plays for the back end of this. Let's get just a couple things out of the way. First, update on the Bungie stuff. Eurogamer writes, Sony will spend $1.2 billion on retaining Bungie stuff. Bungie staff. Fucking Bungie stuff.
I've got to make sure they don't throw all that stuff out. Make sure that Halo statue stays in the code.
Amongst the new, one small nugget spotted in Sony's earnings report was how the company is going to allocate $3.6 billion it spent on acquiring Bungie. In the report, Sony estimates that approximately a third of that money will be used to, quote, deferred payments to employee shareholders conditional upon their continued deployment of retention incentives. In other words, Sony will be spending $1.2 billion on incentives to retain Bungie staff after its buyout takes place, and says it will do so for several years. The Washington Post reported that the deal meant some staff would receive roughly a year's worth of income in compensation, though not all at once. Employees will receive 50% of equity payouts when the Sony deal closes, and 50% over the next few years, the report stated. So, I don't think I've ever seen this happen when someone's brought anyone. Like, they usually are just like, we sort of want the key people plus the name and the IPs, and then if the staff want to leave, you know, like, here's the door. Yeah. Whereas Sony, and I mean, it matches this news matches their narrative, which is that they want all of Bungie, because what they're doing is so magical, and the way they make Destiny as a live service platform work so unique that they need everyone who's been involved in keeping that going, that's been there for the years. They need everyone there to learn from them all. So I think doing this is definitely in path of what they've been saying, which I think is interesting. But yeah, I can't remember ever seeing something like this, like full sort of staff retention attempted. You know, weird. I mean, it's not weird, just interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah. And it's good for the staff once, I guess, is the other thing. Like like they're getting money, so
getting paid.
And then continuing, PlayStation Lifestyle, so Sony to launch 10 live service games. So that's what their current thing is. I think we briefly touched on how this is probably going to be a thing, but Sony CFO Hikori Totoki confirmed they're aiming to launch more than 10 live service games by 2026. And then in other news this week on Eurogamer, Jade Raymond Studio making persistent and evolving online title for PlayStation. So we talked about Jade Raymond last year. Here we go. Last March, Assassin's Creed co-creator Jade Raymond unveiled Haven Entertainment Studios, a new independent developer that would be creating a brand new IP for PlayStation. And now, just under a year later, early details of the project have emerged, calling it a persistent and evolving online game for PlayStation and PC. That's according to Montreal-based French-language publication Le Devoir by Google Translate, which sheds a little more on Haven's ambitions, with accompanying quotes from Raymond and fellow co-creators as part of a short profile piece on the studio. Speaking to Le Devoir, Raymond explained Sony had initially asked the studio to present 3 large-scale projects with the intention of funding the idea it liked best. Ultimately, Sony showed interest in all 3, but the one Haven opted to focus on to begin with, described as a persistent and evolving online entertainment that will seek to differentiate itself from other popular online games by promoting inclusion and caring. Although the remainder of Le Devoir's article is light on revelations, Raymond does tell the publication that Haven, which has apparently tripled in size since its founding last March, intends to, quote, push the technical capabilities of the PS5 further. As such, we'll be collaborating with PS5 architect Mark Cerny to better exploit the console's tech. So that's my favorite quote, and I think it's, I saw your head move, the inclusion and caring. I don't know like what sort of game that is, other than one where you're
Dylan, it's going to be a Strand game where you get to leave things for other players.
Maybe it's a live service game in which you just leave hearts at people's doors, and you send them puppy dogs, and you send them cat videos, and you send them funny hats, and
it's AAA kind words.
Yeah, maybe it is. Which is a long change from Assassin's Creed co-creator. So, I mean, if they've got 10 games by 2026, you got 9 more to figure out, because I'm pretty sure this is one of them.
I guess the interesting question is, how many of those do they expect? What are the lifespans do they expect for those games?
Years is the idea, I guess. That's the problem, though, because let me put
success rate are they looking for?
You can technically have them all be successes if they are all within their own niches that have a sustainable audience. So let's say you made a good car live service, game that consistently updated. There's an audience. Of course, you've got the first-person shooter one. That's probably the hardest market to get into. And then you've got your kind words game over here. You know what I mean? Like, you got a fucking sports game. There is an ability, as long as when we start learning what they all are, if they all start sounding like action-adventure shooter games, like very similar, at some point you go, Sony, you expect all of these 10 games released by 2026. They're all going to be treading on each other's toes, and you expect them all to last years as these live service games. I don't think that's sustainable or a thing that people will do.
No. I think, it's an interesting one. It's like, if at least half of these last the rest of this generation, I think they'd be pretty pleased. But I think it would be very surprising that all of these are successes that last a long period of time. Just because it's not just PlayStation putting these live service games out, it's Ubisoft and probably EA and smaller devs and Tencent. And competing with all the titles that are currently out already, so.
Yeah. I mean, I think you could make a cut. 10's just such a high number, I feel like.
Yes. 10 games in 4 years, it's pretty extreme, so.
Yeah. And maybe Naughty Dog's doing some too, because Naughty Dog is hiring for 3 different projects, apparently. So Neil Druckmann made a tweet. News shared by DualShockers. In his tweet, Druckmann mentions that they are working on 3 different projects using only emojis. While it's impossible to guess what the projects are, it's great news for the community that Naughty Dog has some big surprises ahead. So yeah, Neil Druckmann's tweet was like quote resharing the Naughty Dog Jobs Twitter account. He says, "We're growing. Come join us and work on Shush, Zip, and Hush." That's me describing the emojis, but
the emojis, yeah.
It's clearly it's not 3 emojis in a row. There's a comma and
there's
word and, so it's like 3 different projects. So I looked on the jobs page, not because I'm applying, but requirements and skills: minimum of 1 shipped AAA game. Man, it's hard to get into the games industry. Like, how do you strong? I mean, the rest, I suppose, is maybe a bit more consistent, and it's like maths skills and whatever else, programming or whatever. But minimum of 1 shipped AAA game is required to work at Naughty Dog. So, if you're a little indie developer,
I do appreciate that they're trying to recruit a recruiter. So, one of the jobs up is for a recruiter.
Well, they got to get that job first to help get the rest,
Yeah.
But there are lots of jobs. I mean, it's like there's probably like 50 jobs listed here, to be honest. Something like that.
Yeah, so
for 3 projects, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, maybe the solution, like, fuck, screw buying a bunch of studios. Let's just make these studios bigger.
I mean, that is it is a huge, because currently, last we knew, it was like 2 teams at Naughty Dog was the thing. I know if they got 3 projects, does that mean they got 3 teams now? Is that sort of possibly the thing that's going on?
Potentially.
But yeah.
Who knows?
I still think the Last of Us thing is a given. If you look, it's like level environment designer multiplayer, level environment designer single player. Like there's lots of these dual sort of like automation programmer game team, back end programmer game team, multiplayer. So animation programmer multiplayer. So, but they did a bunch of hiring, I don't know, like 4 or 5 months ago, I think, something like that as well. And a lot of that were listed for multiplayer. So it's not like this whole Last of Us factions thing that we all presume it is. I just feel like it's been worked on for a long time, and it's still like.
I mean, for all we know, this could just be jobs for people who've quit because they've burned out from.
That's true. Naughty Dog does have a history of running people right into the ground, so that would add up. That would make sense. Oof. It's tough, but it's true. All right. State of plays. It's a thing. So, first one that we got this week, everything from the Gran Turismo 7 state of play, Kotaku. PlayStation is confident when it dedicates an entire 30-minute state of play to the upcoming title. Gran Turismo 7 appears to fit that bill based on this morning's packed broadcast. So, I'm just going to run down the dot points here. I'm not going to read the whole thing. This is a very long article. Good job, David. A driving simulator for everyone. There are lots of cars, lots of circuits. A new map is about simplicity. You start small. The Gran Turismo Cafe, Brand Central, used car dealer, legendary car dealership, circuit experience, custom race mode, license tests are back, mission races, multiplayer, visual and simulation, time and weather, replay mode, car physics, 3D audio, tuning and customization, scapes, music rally, and music replay. This whole thing covered a lot. I think ultimately the standouts to me were looks pretty. The menus didn't look sluggish. They moved between menus fast. I didn't see someone get straight into a race. However, they clicked on car dealership and they got there in under like 10 minutes, which was good. It looks very pretty. There's lots of really interesting modes in here, including I think the most exciting one was the replay mode where it does stuff based on the music that you choose, and it cuts your replay based on the song that you've chosen for what you're doing. It's got a bunch of new tracks. They talk in the state of play. They talk about it being hopefully a Gran Turismo for fans. Plus, also they're treating it like it could be a lot of people's first entry, and they want it to be accessible and that sort of thing. They talk about it hopefully being maybe not that quite Forza Horizon level, but the way they're talking about it is, we want people to be able to enjoy this without being hardcore car sim nuts, and we want the car sim nuts to be able to get a lot of enjoyment out of this as well. They talked about the license tests being here, but they did talk about how notoriously difficult they were on the PS1 and PS2. They didn't talk about if they're still notoriously difficult. They just talked about them being notoriously difficult. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. I think the thing that stood out to me the most is just the car history, though, that's involved in this game. I thought that was a really unique feature to this one. So each car dealership that's involved in the game, they've got this feature where you can unlock, or maybe it's unlocked from the start, I can't remember, but you can read about the history of that person, the car. Like, it just shows like a lot of love, I guess.
Yeah, I think like with the what's it called? Gran Turismo Cafe, apparently, like, you can do a bunch of different missions, and then you can have, like, you talk to some of, like, the creators of the different cars, and, like, they'll talk to you about the history and that kind of stuff. So that's quite interesting, and from what I understand, it's, like, apparently car culture's kind of, like, had a bit of a dip over the last few years. Like, the auto shows are not as big as they used to be and that kind of stuff.
Couldn't go,
like,
COVID.
Well, that affects it and that kind of thing, but, yeah, this is kind of hoping to reignite some of the interest in car culture and like that kind of stuff. And yeah, I think for car people, it's going to be really interesting. I mean, it's got like a smaller amount of cars at launch, like it's like 400 and something, which apparently like I think 6 or 5 had like 1200.
Yeah, it is smaller,
but over its lifespan. But this is a game they're probably going to be adding stuff to for the
They
next.
do mention that they're going to add stuff over time, so I think ultimately, if it's like less cars, but what's here is a better produced package, then and we'll get more cars over time. It's like, what's it matter?
Yeah, I think it's interesting the way you could buy cars in this game. There's like obviously a dealership, but it's only for cars 2001 and higher.
Yeah,
and then anything older than that is part of like a used car dealership. Like
which rotates
eBay almost, which rotates, and the values of things will change and stuff. And then, of course, you get like the classic cars in a special showcase dealership museum thing. Yeah. There's a lot of interesting ideas here that I'm sure fans of Gran Turismo will be super into. It seems like apparently the modification element is like super hardcore, and like apparently the creator is like it's like its own full-on mini game because you can simulate how the different things you change affect the car and that kind of stuff, like on the go, like real quick and stuff. So I think a lot of the stuff in there is interesting, but I don't know how easy it's going to be for newcomers to get into.
As long as they've got like an auto like mode, because that's a part that turns me off Sims. Like I like.
I'm sure there's like a basic, like the base you'll drive fine, but it's like fine tuning the car to how you want it.
Yeah.
And like customizing it, making it, adding mods and that kind of stuff to it, and adding, I don't know, spoilers and bullshit like that to the car. Like how that affects it.
Visually designing the car, I can get about that. It's tweaking the handling and stuff to match the track and the weather and all that bullshit. I'm like, nah. That's not what I can't get into that stuff. I never have. I'm pretty keen. I liked what I saw. I think it all looks good. I think what was the other thing they talked about? There's a lot of really interesting tech involved here. They show a sequence in the state of play where they like a 24-hour weather cycle, and they talk about how like they show you off the rain landing on the track, and how if the sun then comes out, it'll like slowly but surely the sun will dry out rain naturally in spots. However, if there's like sort of parts of the track that would attract like an actual puddle, those will hang around a lot longer on the track, and you'll have to be aware of those, especially if you're doing like a longer rally sort of thing where it could rain halfway through your race and then you've still got a bunch of laps left to do and stuff like that. They've also I think it's like to middle next, I think it's a couple days away, but they're also unveiling some AI technology or something that they've got in the game. I highly doubt it's going to be some mind-blowing thing. I think it's just to do with the way racers respond to the weather and all these other elements that they've got involved in the game. Also, only one Australian track in the game. Disappointing. So, just want to say that. I was keeping my eye open when they clicked on the track selection.
Just to be included is pretty solid. I mean,
there's always one. They have
when there's 190 something countries in the world. Like, there's 35 tracks.
It's outrageous. Australia's known.
I mean, we are in one of 7 continents, so I mean,
yeah.
We should have more, but
bullshit. No Bathurst? Get out of here. Is it a real car game? No, fake car game. Yeah, I'm keen. I think it looks good. I think
there was no Australian tracks in Forza Horizon 5, or whatever the most recent one.
Yeah, but they set entire Forza game here.
That's bullshit. That's
the entire Forza Horizon 3 was set in Australia. The entire game's in Australia.
Yeah, but what are you doing for me recently?
Yeah. I don't think they can set an entire game in one country and then be like, why can't you race there? It's not quite the same. Yeah, I'm pretty keen. I'm pretty keen to try it out. Hopefully, get a bit more into it. I had like such a love for the sort of 1, 2, 3, a little bit of 4, I guess, or whatever. I think I didn't play that much of 4 actually, but yeah. And then the last few ones I've been like, whatever. I don't really care. So. Either for just not really, they've always been better racing games, or just, and I keep memeing about it, but my complaints about trying to play the last one and just getting so annoyed about how long it took to make your way around the game. Load times and bullshit fucking pissing me off. So yeah, I'm pretty keen to check this out. You won't be picking this up, I presume, though.
No, probably not.
And then the other thing we got was a 20. So, Press Starts article says, here's roughly 20 minutes of news Ghostwire Tokyo gameplay footage. It's a couple minutes of gameplay footage, uncut, interjected with a bunch of other things, and then I think it's like a 10-minute state of play, kinda, and then it cuts to just an interview segment with the developers. It's like sort of a weirdly cut thing. Like, you think it's ending, and then next second it keeps going. So, yeah. Ghostwire Tokyo shows off that this is not a horror game, as much as it was unveiled as one. I still believe at some point that definitely was a change in development and not always the go. I'm pretty sure that's why What's Her Face left. Presumably, change of direction for the game. It's an action adventure game where, and I keep making jokes about it, but it's fucking Bleach. More or less, you're fighting like these weird paranormal monsters, and they do look a little bit fucked up, but it's not meant to be scary. Like, they're not like jumping out from corners or whatever. Like, you just walk. It's an open world. You walk around, you see them, whatever. It's fine. And I will say, someone else in the ending segment with the developers gets asked if there was any inspiration. Someone mentions the anime/manga X, and I was like, "Fuck, that is a very good pull." I was obsessed with that at one stage. And that does ring. If anyone wants to look that up after that, does have a lot of feel to this. Like, obviously a bit different, but yes, I was like, actually, that's a very good pull. I can see that in this. I kind of am like intrigued, but I actually don't know. I wouldn't say I'm excited. I'm definitely intrigued. is how I put it. You know, like it looks like a weird combination of a first-person fighting game with spells and Ubisoft open world elements. Is how I sort of took it. What do you make of what we watched in this?
It looks interesting. It doesn't look like it's going to be it doesn't look like it's going to be a game focused on gameplay. Yeah, it seems very basic. The like actions you do, it seems very weird that it's like a first person perspective and you're doing these hand movements, doing stealth takedowns and all that kind of stuff. It seems like it's going to be about a lot of those odd experiences and you going through these certain rooms and that kind of stuff, and weird paranormal shit is going off. It seems very anime and obviously is very Tokyo focused and like Japanese culture and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I feel like it's going to hit a niche of people. Like the thing I'm kind of comparing it in my brain is like something like a Scarlet Nexus, which like I don't think many people had very high expectations for, but found its audience and was like pretty solid. But I feel like that was because of the action and the gameplay more than the aesthetic, and I feel like it's going to be the aesthetic that draws people into this world potentially.
Well, I love Scarlet Nexus, so you're hitting on the right notes there if you want to tell me this is going to be as a surprise as that was, because in the trailers I was like, this looks kind of cool, but then when I played I was like, this is actually very good, so...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Turn it around, maybe, but yeah. Are you keen, or like what's your...
Nope.
You reckon it's still too scary, or...?
Yeah, there's freaking people with their heads missing and umbrellas and...
So it doesn't have
floating.
to be, it doesn't even have to be scary for you not to like it. It just
it just doesn't look like it's going to be a fun experience.
you just can't handle anything that looks weird.
I'm good. No.
Ghost monsters and shit.
They're showing all this kind of spooky stuff now, and then once you actually play the game, they'll show you their full enemy within or evil within bullshit, scary stuff. I'm not falling for it. They're trying to trick me into thinking this is some sort of paranormal experience, and then they go full horror halfway through.
They clearly state in this state of play, they call it an action adventure game, is the genre that they've chosen to describe this game.
Do you know what Resident Evil is described as on the Game Awards? Action adventure.
That's the Game Awards. That's not... No way they're making that game go.
That's the category it's in, so yeah.
Well, it's dumb motherfuckers. I don't know. I honestly don't know.
You don't think an action adventure game can be scary?
It can be like creepy. I don't think it's scary. Like I feel like if the ghost is directly in front of you and standing in the middle of the street as you're walking towards
this is going to be filled with jump scares. I guarantee it.
Why are you so scared? What happened to you as a child? Yeah, I'm more intrigued now than I was previously, but I still wouldn't say I'm like super.
But can we also say it's weird that they're just kind of dropping it
like a month
in a month, like out of nowhere? Again, like I tweeted out, like it's very funny the marketing difference between this and the other Bethesda game, Deathloop, where Deathloop was every single state of play, even if there wasn't a state of play, there was a trailer. Marketed to death, and then this is like, hey, this is coming out.
What if we get about 20 state of plays between now and March, though, and every one has some more Ghostwire Tokyo footage in it?
I mean, it's possible. Unlikely, but possible.
They're like, we got to catch up.
Obviously, the difference is, like, PlayStation needed Deathloop to be their big game for 2021.
Yeah.
That's not the case with Ghostwire Tokyo in 2022.
No. They're like, we gave it a state of play. They're like...
It's fine.
They're like, you announced the state of play a day before. That's not really giving us the same treatment as Deathloop. No, but we did a state of play for you.
No, but even releasing it in March is like... It's...
Amongst
Horizon,
a million things, yeah.
Gran Turismo, Ghostwire Tokyo in the space of like less than a month.
Elden Ring.
What?
It's out like basically.
Elden Ring's not a boy. But like for PlayStation exclusives.
Okay, right. Also, my other question was, how fucking weird is it that they do a state of play for GT and then the next day they do a state of play for this? In my mind, I'm like, I know the Gran Turismo thing was 30 minutes, but I personally would have preferred normal state of play. You take some of the Gran Turismo stuff.
What does normal state of play even mean at this point?
That's true. All right, normal showcase that most people do. A Nintendo Direct. You take a little bit of the Gran Turismo, you take a little bit of the Ghostwire Tokyo, you interject some other little bits and pieces, team up with some indie developers, you put together an interesting half-hour package that appeals to several games, then you release the full-length deep dive Gran Turismo thing for people who want to watch it in its entirety after the show, but you do a nice state of play that gives you a little tasters, you know what I mean? Little showcase.
Yeah, that's not what state of plays are anymore.
A little bit of everything.
State of plays are just purely deep dives at this point.
Yes.
With the occasional showcase.
Yes, I don't know why they're called state of plays. I know why they call them what they
uniform.
It's dumb. It means nothing. I literally can't get excited for state of plays anymore. Because PlayStation could be like, state of play coming tomorrow, and I'll be like, but is it just 30 minutes on like a random game that I don't care about anymore? Like, you know, Nintendo announces Nintendo Direct, I go, oh, that's exciting. Now I could watch it and go, none of these games I care for. However, I don't know that until I watch it. Because I know there's going to be a variety of things to see, you know, and they show a little bit of Smash and I go, cool. Well, they used to. A little bit of Smash and I go, oh, that's cool. And then they show something else, I go, oh, yeah. Last news story for the week, Gran Theft Auto 5, the PS5 version, 4K resolution, old new features, 60 frames per second, all that bullshit, 3D audio, etc., etc., etc. Comes out 15th of March. So add that to your March list of things. If you wanna get involved with playing that for the 15th time, buying it for the 15th million time. I know this is for some reason it's a thing that people get excited about. People have been like asking in the comments I see, where's the Grand Theft Auto 5 release date? And then on top of this, I'll share a random tidbit, which is that Jason Schreier tweeted out this tweet that I thought was super interesting this morning. Don't know if you saw this. Some fun sales numbers. Entire Assassin's Creed series as of November 2020, 155 million. Entire Final Fantasy series as of September 2021, 164 million. Entire Resident Evil series as of December 2021, 123 million. Grand Theft Auto 5 as of February 2022, 160 million copies. That's right. Grand Theft Auto 5, just the fifth entry in the franchise, has sold nearly as much as the entire Final Fantasy series and has sold more than the entire Assassin's Creed series and more than the entire Resident Evil series. Someone asked about Minecraft and he says that sold around 200 plus million. So that is above it currently, but he does point out it's like half or a quarter of the price and that sort of thing. But so there you go. If you're like, we always see Grand Theft Auto high in numbers, but you know, when you see it, I think when you see it put into perspective like that as like more than entire franchises that have been around since the fucking like 90s and 80s and shit, you know, it's like, fuck.
It's like, yeah, that tracks.
Yeah. Let's move into PlayStation production. So one news story and then let's get ready for next week. So DualShockers writes, HBO's The Last of Us Outbreak Day could be years before the game. It looks like The Last of Us TV series will be altering its Outbreak Day from 2013 to 10 years previously, and we're bringing the post-apocalyptic events even closer. It's the year that every The Last of Us fan has been waiting for, and it looks as though HBO is set to make their dive into the popular post-apocalyptic Naughty Dog game one to remember. Even though we don't have an official trailer, there have been plenty of behind-the-scenes sneak peeks of goings-ons that have kept our eagerness at an all-time high. As we draw closer and the production is on the back of the cards after the holiday break, it seems as though some changes have been made to The Last of Us timeline. If you're unfamiliar or have simply forgotten how the Last of Us game's timeline occurred, let me freshen that up a bit for you. Outbreak date is the date that the cornucoseps, fuck, I forgot how you say it, brain infection hit the city of Austin, Texas in the wee hours of the morning of September 26, 2013. Though the infection had been rising in intensity for days, it reached a critical point when people began to be admitted to hospitals. The infection spread quickly, eventually being confirmed to have spread nationwide, with hundreds of infected people then running around the streets attacking people and infecting more in the process. In a post on Reddit taken from @NaughtyDogInfo via Twitter, it states that the year of the outbreak has been changed from 2013 to 2003 for the HBO show, placing the show in 2023 instead of 2033. In an image posted to Twitter account, it shows an HBO poster outlining that Outbreak will apparently take place in 2003 as opposed to the original date in the game. The fan account also backs up evidence in the threads with an image of a set piece from a show showcasing a biomedical sciences conference dated 2003. Although there's a host of reasons that HBO could have decided to do this, fans have their own theory. Reddit user DevF believes that the reason could actually be that it's simply down to getting older cars and props from 20 years ago than from 10 years ago. It would be much easier and work in harmony with the post-apocalyptic environment better. And whatever the reason, blah, 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 blah. What do you reckon? So this is true. There's like many pictures, like set photos and all that sort of stuff. I'm as far as I'm concerned, it's 100% true.
It's kind of a dumb. It doesn't matter.
And yeah, ultimately, I'm like, I don't really care. But yeah, what do you think the actual reason is, other than it doesn't really matter?
I get, because then it's set now, like where we see Joel and Ellie, it's set in present day.
Yeah.
That would be the only reason I can think of. Yeah. Other than, I guess, the iPhone, is it a thing? Smartphones never become a thing that they have to explain why people aren't using. That's why they could use flip phones, or I don't know, or still using walkie-talkies or whatever.
That could be a thing, yeah. I feel like it is definitely I mean, I just took it as they wanted to set it, do the whole, this could happen tomorrow. Like, like, it's right around the corner, the apocalypse, 2023, next year, sort of, I don't know. But yeah, the change of technology, I guess, would also make sense. Probably not something they thought about as much when they were making the game, but I guess when you're making a TV show or movie, having to think about what year and the props and the design of the world and all that sort of stuff is a little bit different. So,
but you know what that means? The song that they used, the Pearl Jam song, doesn't come out till like just before Outbreak Day in the original games, so like in 2013. So that song never gets written. Yeah.
Oh, was that song that new? I thought it was old.
No, I believe it was only came out 2013.
Oh, okay.
And not even like full release. It was like demos that came out online. Is Neil Druckmann's justification? So that song is never going to be created in the world of The Last of Us HBO show.
Guess they're not going to use it. I don't know. Maybe it's not a thing anymore. It's dead.
Or maybe in that universe they write that song earlier.
You know what they can use though? Pretty sure Kid Rock released a classic album.
Imagine that. That's the big emotional moment. If they ever adapt part 2, they use a Kid Rock song.
I want to vote Trump. Yeah, no, I don't really think it makes a difference ultimately. Like, some people be like, "Why? This ruins everything." What's it change? Like, it doesn't change anything. Like, ultimately, it doesn't fucking matter at all. So, whatever. I reckon we'll get a release date for this soon, surely. I reckon we get a release date within the next. I'm gonna say we get a release date or a trailer March, April, somewhere around there. Maybe. I reckon it's the next couple months. And I'm still saying it's coming out. You were saying it wasn't. I'm saying it's out later this year.
You said it was coming out early this year.
All right. I'm going to say July.
I reckon Outbreak Day. Or around whatever Sunday is closest to that.
Yeah. I mean, that would make sense. But
yeah.
I just think in this day and age, and I sound old saying that sentence, I reckon these days, shows just get a lot less build up. And that's fine. And it's what we're used to. We're so used to just, oh, here's a trailer for something. It's out next month. It's fine. Don't need a massive marketing campaign. Yeah. How do you
I don't know.
Like massive marketing campaign. They used to do long marketing campaigns because they'd put posters on buses and shit. But now it's like
nobody goes outside.
No one goes outside. So
there's no point. Look, nobody looks at the buses.
No one looks at anything. They just keep their head down, masks up, and walk forward. So no one says shit.
No, I think that obviously for bigger scale stuff, that I suspect for this, the big Game of Thrones show, that sort of stuff, HBO will be doing a longer lead time. You know, we're already getting teasers for the Lord of the Rings TV series that isn't going to come out till like end of the year. So,
that's true.
These things, you know, but like maybe a teaser sometime in the next couple of months.
Have to get something, sure.
PSVR for the players.
And then the last thing I want to talk about this week in VR news. So, Upload VR says, as spotted on Reddit, Sony launched a new page recently, though it largely reiterates what we already know about PSVR2. It talks about the new Sense controllers, eye tracking and headset vibration, as well as 4K HDR visuals and inside-out tracking. There's also mention of the headset's first official game, Horizon Collar Mountain. So yeah, there isn't much to this other than there's an official page for PSVR2, which I feel like I'm going to take to the bank as confirmation it comes out this year. You know, and I mean, I don't mean it like it's a placeholder page. It's not like it's not a one-page spread that says, "Hey, PSVR2, it's a thing. It's coming later this year." It's a highly detailed, like, here's all the features thing. Like it's like the PS5 page that's on the PlayStation website. It lists all the features and what it does and all that sort of stuff. And at the bottom it says, you know, sign up here to get some more information. So, what do you reckon? A sign of the future? Sign of the times?
I think, you know, they just need to put a website up. Just to confirm that it's a thing. I don't think it's going to come this year.
You need to put your tinfoil hat on and join me.
There's not enough chips. They're all going in smart fridges.
Maybe this doesn't have a chip. Maybe it has a cookie.
I'm pretty sure they have both in there.
I don't know how that joke went over, but and there was another story this week actually about I didn't put it in here, but just as a side note, apparently the people who are doing like the eye tracking technology were like, yeah, we haven't officially signed a contract. So then other people are like, this means it's not coming out this year. I'm like, fuck you. I want it to, so I'm going to believe it when it does. I'm going to believe what I need to believe. And all right.
Yep, that's nothing more 2022 than I'll believe what I want to believe.
I gotta have hope, you know what I mean, in some things. PSVR 2, Bayonetta 3, The Last of Us show, World Peace, COVID leaves.
You're gonna go
PAX 2022. Like I gotta.
I mean, sounds like disappoint. 0 from 6 there. I think
0 from 6. Fucking hell. No faith at all. That'll do it for this week's episode of Platinum Explosion. Let us know any comments, questions, or concerns you've had about this week's episode by tweeting at us or joining our Discord. You can tweet at us, explosionnetwork.com/Twitter. You can join our Discord, explosionnetwork.com/Discord. It'll let you know what I'm playing when I'm playing PlayStation games now there. Yeah. Link your Discord, everyone. Let's get to the future of Discord and PlayStation. Get excited. And if you liked this episode and thought it was worth $1 or more, head on over to our Ko-fi page, explosionnetwork.com/support, where you can donate as little as $1, set up a monthly recurring payment, help support the show, help support the website. That would be great. And until next week's episode, remember, every trophy counts.